Welcome to today's Explainer. We are stepping out of the textbooks and throwing ourselves directly into the wild to analyze the raw, visual physics of nature's ultimate showdowns. Let's dive right into the kinetic energy of the animal kingdom. We constantly hear stats about bite force and top speeds, right? But actually seeing those massive forces collide in real time, that is a completely different story. It's literally the ultimate wildlife mystery, one we've all wondered about at some point. What actually happens when nature's absolute heavyweights collide? When two apex forces share the exact same space at the exact same moment in time, what does that physical engagement truly look like? Today, we're going to act as your play-by-play analyst to find out, examining the raw evidence left behind in these frozen frames. To find our answers, we're breaking down exactly 10 distinct frozen moments of raw power. Just take in the sheer variety of contenders we're dealing with here. You've got the agile, muscle-dense apex land predators, your lions, tigers, and bears, contrasted beautifully against the massive, prehistoric bulk of elephants and rhinos. And then, plunging all the way down into the deep sea, we have the terrifying, torpedo-like frames of breaching great whites. It's absolutely a masterclass in evolutionary combat design. Think about the millions of years of selective pressure required to forge these physiques. Every single muscle fiber, every claw, every tusk is perfectly engineered for survival. Seeing them all laid out together, it really highlights the phenomenal diversity of natural weaponry. So before we break them down, ask yourself, which of these matchups feels the most visually intense to you? Is it the sheer, overwhelming mass of a grizzly bear, or maybe the nightmare-inducing jaws of a shark? Engaging with this chaotic energy is our very first step in deciphering their playbooks. Because beneath all that chaos, there's always a strategy. There's a biomechanical logic to exactly how these animals wage war. Now, to truly appreciate these clashes, we have to look at how the battlegrounds react to their power. Those massive clouds of dry dust aren't just for cinematic effect, they're actually visualizing the explosive, sudden transfer of kinetic energy from the animal's paws right into the earth. And in the river, displacing all those gallons of water requires immense torque. The environment itself basically becomes a casualty, painting a vivid picture of just how much force is being unleashed. When a 500-pound cat launches itself off the ground, the earth below it has to absorb that equal and opposite reaction. It's literally Newtonian physics playing out in real time in the wild, completely untamed and remarkably powerful. Okay, to make sense of all this chaos, we need a solid framework. So we're splitting this into two distinct camps. Interspecies, meaning clashes between entirely different evolutionary builds, versus intraspecies, which are your classic turf wars between exact mirror images. Crossing that species line drops us into absolute chaos. When you have a brown bear squaring off against a tiger, you've got two completely different evolutionary builds clashing head-on. Neither animal entirely knows the other's playbook, which turns the whole fight into a highly unpredictable, improvisational brawl. A tiger's instinct is to use blistering speed and precision striking, while the bear relies on sheer, unadulterated crushing power and its incredibly immovable center of gravity. It's a total clash of fundamental fighting philosophies, and in these moments, even a split second of hesitation can be fatal. Because of that wild unpredictability, a really distinct visual pattern emerges. They default to these specific distance-managing mechanics. First off, they rear up on their hind legs. This maximizes their height for intimidation, sure, but crucially, it protects the vital organs on their underbelly. Second, you see the bare teeth and raised paws. They're trying to maximize their lethal reach while keeping their core safely out of range. It's exactly like heavyweight boxers feeling out a new opponent with quick jabs. They're mapping out the threat, calculating the exact millisecond to close the distance without taking a devastating counterstrike. Sometimes, though, these interspecies mechanics cross out of reality and into the realm of the ultimate what-if. Take a massive silverback gorilla facing off against a male lion. Geographically, it's near impossible. But visually, wow. It's a fascinating theoretical study of primate grappling and crushing muscle matched up against the predatory, lightning-fast striking speed of a big cat. It forces us to ask how mammalian intelligence and opposable thumbs would actually hold up against hyper-evolved predatory instinct. It's the exact kind of scenario that pushes our understanding of animal biomechanics to the absolute limit. Flipping over to the intraspecies turf wars, the visual language completely changes. When rhinos, elephants, or buffalo collide, these combatants are suddenly facing their exact mirror image. These are pure head-to-head power struggles. Gone are the leaping, swiping predators. Instead, these heavy, armored animals, equipped with natural weaponry like horns and tusks, they drop their center of gravity and engage in these grounded, grueling shoving matches. It's a brutal test of physics. We're talking sheer leverage, traction, and endurance, where the victor is simply the one who can outpush the other's identical frame. Notice how their legs are braced, driving force straight through their spines right into the point of impact. Their bodies are literally designed to be living battering rams, absorbing incredible amounts of concussive force that would easily shatter the bones of leaner predators. But same-species fights aren't always about blunt force. Drop into the water with crocodiles, hippos, and great white sharks, and it becomes this terrifying game of geometry. Aquatic and reptilian combat is almost entirely dominated by massive open-jawed displays. It's both an intimidation tactic and a physical calculation, basically testing whose bite radius can fully encompass the opponent's. With hippos, for example, it's literally a contest of maximum gape. They're trying to physically lock their opponent down, and the one with the wider angle of attack dictates the flow of the entire confrontation. It's a uniquely terrifying, highly localized form of combat. A clash of kings in the dust and water. That perfectly sets the stage for the most heavily featured rivalry in our entire collection. It's time to zoom in on the undisputed main event. The main event, lion versus tiger, two absolute titans of the cat world. What makes this specific breakdown so spectacular is that we aren't just seeing one lucky strike here. We are looking at a comprehensive, multi-angle study of exactly how apex predators interact when pushed to their absolute physical limits. These are creatures born and bred to hunt prey, not each other, meaning every single survival instinct gets dialed up to maximum capacity. Look at those mid-air water lunges. They're risking everything, giving up their grounded balance for an athletic aerial strike. The sheer kinetic energy generated in those leaps is just mind-boggling. Then the fight goes to the floor. Notice the tiger grappling on its back? While it might look highly defensive, it's actually a lethal guard, turning its body into a literal trap with all four sets of claws exposed and ready to counter. From splashing rivers to snow-covered standoffs, it's an absolute masterclass in environmental adaptability and relentless grappling strategy. Each feline makes these tiny micro-adjustments, shifting weight, parrying strikes, and constantly hunting for that one tiny opening that guarantees victory. So, after examining the dust, the water, the terrifying geometry of open jaws, and the intricate, high-stakes grappling of these big cats, we arrive at our final question. Based strictly on the visual physics and the raw strategies we've uncovered today, who do you think claims the ultimate crown? Review the evidence and decide for yourself. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you leave this seeing the natural world with an entirely new level of detail and with a much deeper appreciation for the wild engineering of the animal kingdom.